All right, welcome to Zoo School Live. My name is Laura, so different face, same name. I'm the Assistant Curator here at the Elmwood Park Zoo. I want to start off by sharing a piece of artwork that we got from Tegan and Victoria from all the way from San Diego, California. Look at that, that's awesome. I love that you guys are using a paper plate. That's a wonderful piece of artwork. Thank you so much for sending that in. We love to see our critters in any kind of art form. I also, excuse my bat friends in the background, they're very loud. I just want to say thank you for all of our new supporters and new followers on Facebook. We have 8,000 new followers, that's awesome. And I also did want to say that you could help out the zoo, support the zoo by purchasing a star on Facebook during Facebook Live to help us out. That would be awesome if you guys could do that. So let's get started. I'm not sure if you could hear our guys behind me here. I'm with our African straw-colored fruit bats, one of my absolute favorite animals here at the zoo. I know not everybody is a bat fan, but I sure am. So as you can tell from their name, they are from Africa. So they are actually the most widely distributed fruit bat species in all of Africa. And they want you to know it. They are also the second largest fruit bat in all of Africa. So their wingspan, if they were to open their wings all the way up, their wingspan is actually about 30 inches, so not quite 3 feet long, but they're pretty big. These guys are often referred to as flying foxes because if you look closely at their little faces, they kind of resemble a fox. They have little pointed ears, they have long noses, big eyes, and sometimes people even call them sky puppies. I kind of like that name. I think they're pretty cute, so I like to call them sky puppies. So these guys, we're talking about habitats this week on Zoo School Live. These guys you can find in some dry and moist tropical forests. That's where you're going to find them. So they like to live and fly around the canopy. Usually the open parts of the canopy is where you're going to find them. Because they are kind of large-bodied and they have that long wingspan, they're not very graceful and agile. As you can hear, one just landed on my butt. But they are good flyers when they have lots of space. So that open canopy allows them to have lots of space to fly. They are the only true flighted mammal, so that makes them pretty special. All other mammals, all those furry animals that we call mammals, they, the other ones that can glide, like sugar gliders, things like that, they don't truly fly, they actually glide. It's only the bats that are the true flying mammals, so that makes them pretty special. These bats do have some special adaptations to help them live in the canopy and find their food. Their name also kind of gives away what type of food they like to eat. Since they are fruit bats, you can guess that they like to eat all kinds of fruits. So in their natural habitat, they like to eat things like mango and passion fruit and baobab flowers. They like to eat nectar as well as fruit. Here at the zoo, their favorite things to eat are banana and grapes. Types of melon like watermelon and honeydew. They like oranges, apples, pears, anything that's nice and juicy. So what's kind of interesting though, if you guys can stop by the zoo and see them eating, you'll notice that they'll chomp down on the fruit and then they'll spit out all of the hard parts of the fruit. So they just like to eat the fruit juices and then they spit out the rest of the fruit onto the floor, so they're very messy eaters. These guys do actually migrate as well. So just like some birds migrate, these bats are actually part of the largest mammalian migration recorded on Earth. So I heard that you guys talked about gregarious animals in, I think, yesterday's Zoo School Live. These animals live in enormous colonies. So usually their colonies are about 100,000 individuals to one colony, and sometimes their colonies can have up to 1 million bats, which is a crazy amount of bats. And what they do in the dry season, when there's not a lot of food, they're going to migrate to where there's food. And this migration, it occurs during October and December down in Africa, and usually ends up in Kasanka National Park in Zambia, where 10 million fruit bats congregate at this national park. So it must be an incredible sight to see. So some information about our individual bats that we have here at the zoo. We have a total of 13 bats in our exhibit. We started off with 7 bats that we acquired from the Akron Zoo that were born in captivity there. And so we started off with 7 bats, and now we have 13. So we have 3 original female bats that each gave birth to 2 babies each in this exhibit. So now we have a total of 13. It's kind of hard to give you all of the birthdays of the bats, but the ages ranging in this exhibit, we have the youngest is 3 years old, and the oldest is 16 years old. And the average lifespan for these guys in the wild, 15 is the oldest, and in captivity, they can live to be about 22 years old. So they can live a pretty long time. So some other things that are going on in this exhibit, we have our feeders all around here filled with some of their favorite fruits. We also have some lettuce as well, and they absolutely love to eat their lettuce. It's one of their favorite foods, which I think is really funny because it's not usually one of our favorite foods to eat, but they do go nuts for it. And having 2 people in their exhibit is a little strange for them, so that's why they're not actively eating as much right now. So another thing that I do want to mention is that bats are super important for the environment. Fruit bats are very important in that they pollinate a lot of fruits and flowers and crops, and they also disperse a lot of seeds. So rainforests and forests in general have been decimated by people. They've been cut. Seeds that they end up eating will go through there, will poop out those seeds while they're flying, and actually reforest a lot of areas. So they end up reforesting a lot of those damaged ecosystems, which is so, so important. Other bats that we have here in Pennsylvania where we live, we don't have fruit bats, but we have bats that eat insects, which is also super important. So for example, the little brown bat that we have in Pennsylvania can eat 1,000 mosquito-sized insects in just 1 hour. So I don't think I know anybody that likes mosquitoes. I certainly don't. So I would love to have little brown bats around my house so that I don't get bitten by mosquitoes. Bats in general in the United States, they are estimated to save farmers about $3.7 billion in pest management for their crops. And that's good because the more bugs they eat, the less pesticides they have to use on our crops. So they are extremely important not only to help us with our crops, but to pollinate and also for seed dispersal. So I know some people are afraid of them and think that they're gross and yucky, but that's not the case. They don't want to get stuck in your hair. They don't want to attack you or anything like that. They just want to eat bugs, they want to eat fruit, and they want to keep to themselves. And if you take a closer look, you might even think that, hey, they're pretty cute too. So those are our African straw-colored fruit bats. And we can take a few questions at this time. So Luke and Gray are asking how long is their wingspan? So if they were to open their wings, it would be about 30 inches long, so not quite 3 feet long. It's a good question. Let's see, Zachary wants to know, what are their names? What are some of their names? So they do all have names. I'm not going to go through all 13 because I might forget some. But we have Purple Bat. She has little purple thumb bracelets for identification. We have Blue Bat, who also has blue identification bands. There is Bowie. There is Bat Midler. There is Jafar. There is Wombat. Let's see. There is Shikaka Bat. And that's all I'm thinking of at the moment. Let's see, Alex wants to know, do they have a lot of predators? What a great question. They do have some predators. Humans are a big predator, these guys. They are hunted and killed for people to eat them where they live in Africa. Also, they have to worry about deforestation and habitat loss. But as far as animals, they have to worry about owls, eagles, snakes, and animals called civets will also try to eat them. Isaiah would like to know, how big do they get? So these are all adults. You can see that they're probably about 10 inches long. The boys can get a little bit bigger than the girls. So the boys are a little bit heavier. They probably weigh, I'd say about 300 to 400 grams. You know, that's kind of hard to imagine. Ada and Augie, what kind of bats are native to our area? That's a good question. So we have bats that like to eat bugs. So little brown bat, big brown bat, hoary bat. I believe we have some red bats as well. Those are the ones that are coming to mind. Unfortunately, I haven't been seeing a lot of bats recently in our area. Brianna and Joey asked, do these bats stay with their family members? Yes, they do. Yeah, remember, you might not have heard me say that they have colonies of about 100,000 bats. So they absolutely do stay with their family members. And even though they do tend to argue a lot, you can hear them bickering and yelling at each other, they do stay with their families in those huge colonies. Ian wants to know what causes them to screech. So scientists don't exactly know why they're so vocal, but I think I read an article recently saying that a lot of it does have to do with little bickerings and arguments. So maybe they're bumping into each other and they're saying, hey, you bumped into me, that's not nice. Or, hey, I want that piece of fruit. Things like that. Little disagreements that they have with each other is usually why they're making those noises. Paige and Alice want to know, can they eat while they're upside down? Yes, they absolutely can eat while they're upside down. They have kind of designed, their body is designed to do everything upside down, except go to the bathroom. They will actually turn themselves right side up to go to the bathroom and then turn themselves back upside down after they're finished. Hunter would like to know what their favorite food is. Usually banana and grapes are their favorite food. Sometimes when we get really ripe mango, and surprisingly corn on the cob and broccoli, they really like as well. Tally would like to know, how do they keep clean? You'd be surprised to know maybe that they are very, very fastidious animals. They love to clean themselves. So they're always grooming themselves, kind of like a cat. They use their tongue to give themselves baths. There's actually a bath up in that cluster who is just cleaning himself. And they clean each other too. They'll groom each other and make sure everybody's super clean. They do not like to be dirty. Alyssa would like to know if they drink the juice of the fruit or if they eat the entire piece of fruit. So actually, they make our lives really, really messy and difficult. They just drink the juice. So they squeeze all the nice juicy sweetness out of the piece of fruit, and then they spit out all the messy bits onto the floor and make quite a mess for us keepers to clean up after. So they don't want the skins, they don't want the pulpiness of the fruit, they just want that nice sweet juice. Alyssa is also asking about what do their wings feel like? Or another one of our questions is, what do their wings feel like? So that's a good question. It's kind of it very much feels like a rubbery, kind of stretchy, elastic skin. Almost like our skin, but a little more rubbery. It's very, very stretchy. Liam and Ronan would like to know, how high do they fly, and do they like berries? I guess the bats are trying to answer for themselves. They do fly pretty high. Now, I unfortunately don't have a number to give you. That's something that I could look up for you. But they do like to fly very high up in the canopy where there's lots of open space for them to fly. The higher the better. And they do absolutely love to eat berries. The juicier the berry, the better. Do you have to be careful about getting the virus from the bats? So we are not worried about getting anything from our bats. The reason that I'm wearing the mask here is because we have updated our protocols to make sure that we are keeping our animals, especially our mammals, any of those animals that have fur, safe from our germs. So we're keeping each other safe by wearing our masks, and we're keeping our animals safe also by trying to keep our germs to ourselves and away from them. So I'm not worried about the bats giving me anything. Everly, do they like veggies? Yes, surprisingly they do like some vegetables. So like I said, broccoli, they surprisingly like broccoli. They like lettuce and kale and leafy greens. Sometimes they like to eat things like peppers and squash. So as enrichment or something new and different for them to eat that's not in their normal diet, we will give them some vegetables to chew on. And things like pumpkin too. Near Halloween, we'll give them some pumpkin to chew on, and they do like that. Victoria, how do you tell them apart when they all look the same? It's a great question. They all have microchips that are placed right between their shoulder blades. So we have a microchip reader that we can use to tell them apart. The only other way I can tell them apart is some of them have little rings around their thumbs that are colored rings that tell them apart. Unfortunately, those rings sometimes, because they're just made out of plastic, sometimes those rings just fall off because they get old and worn, and they don't stay on very well. Otherwise, they all do look the same to me, and I have to use the chip reader to figure out who is who. Casey would like to know why they aren't sleeping now. Good question. Usually these guys are nocturnal, but because we like to have these guys more active for the public to see during the day. Whoopsies. I got a little excited. Because we like people to be able to see them active during the day, we have them on a reverse light cycle, which means during the day, they have their lights usually off, which means that's their normal active time. And then at nighttime, we'll have the lights on, which signals to them that they should rest. Right now, during the video, we have the lights on, only so you can see these bats a little bit better. As soon as we're done with the video, we'll turn the lights off, and then they'll go back to their normal schedule of eating. Claire would like to know if they are endangered. These guys are not listed as endangered. They're actually listed as near threatened. So they're not even threatened. They are, like I said, widely distributed, dispersed throughout Africa. But if people continue to hunt them, if habitat loss continues to be an issue, then they will become threatened, and they could then become endangered. So we don't want that to happen. Preston would like to know if they spend most of their time flying or crawling around in the trees. Honestly, they probably spend the most time just hanging out. And that's because it takes a lot of energy to crawl around, and it takes a lot of energy to fly. So they want to conserve as much energy as possible and really only expend energy to go get food. So a lot of their time is spent hanging around and nestling together. Eli and Andrew would like to know if they have enrichment. Yes, they do have enrichment. So every single day they get their food in different feeders. So that's one part of enrichment that they get. They also like to get different types of leaves and flowers to eat and manipulate. Sometimes we'll give them things like honey that they can eat. We also give them different toys to manipulate and play with. Today, they haven't gotten their toys or enrichment for the day. But yes, they receive different enrichment every single day. All right, here's the last few questions. Diane, do they eat crickets? Diane would like to know if they eat crickets. They have been known to accidentally eat bugs if bugs happen to be in or around their food, but they don't seek them out. Henry would like to know if baby bats can see right away. It's a good question. Baby bats, when they're first born, can't really see, they can't really hear. They are very, what's the word? They're very reliant on their mom. They can't hear, they can't see. So they really need their mom to protect them. Jackson would like to know, do they have teeth and are they sharp? They absolutely have teeth, and yes, they are sharp. Not super sharp, but sharp enough that it definitely hurts when they bite. Their teeth is perfect for chomping and crushing fruit in order to get the juice out of it. And their teeth is also really perfect because they have special texture on their teeth that doesn't allow plaque to form, so that their teeth doesn't decay from all the sugary foods that they eat. So they don't have to worry about brushing their teeth, which is really nice for them. So that was our last question of the day. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us today. I hope you learned some things, and hopefully you like bats a little bit more now. If you guys want to send your artwork to us, you can mail or email education@elmwoodparkzoo.org. One last question. Do baby bats have a special name? I believe they're called pups. Bat pups. Sorry, one last question we got in there. So that was from Julia and Carissa. Got that one at the last second. So send in that